The first time they met, it didn't feel like meeting. It felt like remembering, not the kind of remembering that lives in the mind, but the kind that stirs somewhere behind the ribs, where truth rests before it becomes language. The cafe was small, almost hidden from the world vines, climbed the brick walls like they were trying to return to the sky, and sunlight spilled through the windows in soft golden ribbons. It was the kind of place people didn't find by accident, only by following a feeling they couldn't name. She came to read, not to escape, but to sit with herself, to let the noise of life soften for an hour. He came to breathe, to pause, to remember how it felt to exist without effort. Neither of them expected anything extraordinary. And yet, the moment their eyes met, something deep and wordless unfolded. Like two mirrors suddenly realizing they were reflecting the same light, time didn't stop. It simply loosened its grip. They didn't speak at first. There was no need. The air between them pulsed gently, as if the universe itself had leaned in to listen. Finally, he smiled, not the polite smile people offer strangers, but the quiet awe people get when they've just seen something true and don't disturb it. She smiled back, feeling warmth rise in her chest, not attraction, not longing, but recognition. As if some ancient part of her whispered, "There you are." They talked eventually, softly, slowly. Words arrived the way waves do, not rushed, not forced. They talked for hours. About nothing. About everything. About how silence can feel fuller than sound. About how the stars seem to hum when the world goes quiet. About how forgiveness isn't forgetting, but unclenching the soul long enough to breathe again. They laughed gently, easily. Not to impress, not to perform, but because laughter rose naturally in the space they shared. It wasn't love at first sight. It was love before sight, the kind that exists before names, before stories, before this lifetime learned how to speak. Days turned into weeks. Their connection deepened not through intensity or drama, but through stillness. They learned the shape of each other's quiet, the rhythm of pauses, the comfort of simply being near. They didn't rush toward definitions. They didn't try to claim what hadn't asked to be owned. Instead, they sat together like two candles placed close enough to remind each other how to shine without stealing light. One afternoon, while watching the world pass through the cafe window, he said softly, "When I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm escaping life. I feel like I'm finally in it." She didn't answer right away. She didn't need to, because being near him didn't pull her away from herself. It brought her home. They weren't perfect. There were moments of fear, moments of silence that felt too heavy. Sometimes they drifted, not because love weakened, but because growth demanded space. And yet, every time they separated, something greater guided them back. A dream that lingered too vividly to ignore. A song arriving at exactly the right moment. A sudden calm in the middle of chaos, as if the soul itself whispered, "This way." One evening, they sat beneath a sky so wide it made their hearts ache. No city lights, no distractions. Just stars scattered like forgotten prayers. Their hands touched softly, not grasping, just resting. The warmth between them pulsed like an ancient heartbeat. She broke the silence, her voice barely above a breath. "Do you ever feel like love is too big for us to hold?" He looked at her for a long moment, eyes kind and steady. "We're not meant to hold it," he said gently, "just to let it move through us." And in that moment, something settled inside her. She understood. The divine hadn't brought them together to complete each other. There was nothing missing. They were whole before they met. They would be whole if they ever parted. They were brought together to remember what wholeness feels like, to recognize it in another, to reflect it back. They were not halves searching for union. They were reflections of the same completeness. Two souls meeting in the middle of eternity, learning that love was never a destination. It was the path itself. They stayed in each other's lives for many seasons, not always together, not always apart. Life shifted, but the connection remained quiet, steady, unbroken. Because what they found was not romance that fades, but resonance that remains. Years later, she sometimes returned to that cafe alone. She would sit by the same window, watching sunlight dance across the table, and she could still feel him there, not as absence, but as presence transformed, in the warmth of her own heartbeat, in the calm behind her thoughts, in the way the world felt just a little softer. And she would smile, knowing he was never really gone. He was a reminder that divine love doesn't ask for possession. It doesn't demand proof. It doesn't fear distance. It simply asks you to see. To see the light between all things, between lovers, friends, strangers, stars. And when you do, to whisper softly with gratitude and awe, "Thank you. I remember now. Thank you for listening." If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more reflections. Stay well.